In this video, we're going to talk about how to engage people with emotion. Maya Angelou once said, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Feelings are powerful in helping your audience to remember your presentation and to move them towards your presentation goal. Now, it's important to remember that your audience will feel emotions while watching your presentation, regardless of whether you want them to or not. So it makes sense to play an active role in helping them to feel the appropriate emotion. This means you need to target specific emotions on purpose and at the right time. So how do you do that? Well, like a colour palette, you'll need a palette of emotions to choose from. There have been many studies on emotion, but if you start with a list of basic emotions and target those, you'll find this fairly easy to do. Here are 6 basic emotions and some variations on them, just to get you started. Anger, which can vary from irritation, annoyance, disgust, right through to fury. Sadness can be disappointment, hurt, embarrassment, to misery. Fear can be anxiety, distress, panic, hysteria. And joy can be hope, excitement, happiness, elation, and pride. Love can be desire and passion, sentimentality, care, and surprise can be amazement and astonishment. If you want to build your emotional vocabulary, you can find some really good articles online in Wikipedia and other free resources, but for now, these ones will be in the handout for you to use. Let's take a look at some examples of how you can get the audience to feel different emotions. For example, I remember Steve Jobs getting us to feel disgust at how inconvenient a stylus was on a smartphone. He said, who wants a stylus? You have to get them and put them away and you lose them, yuck. Here's an example of how fear can be conveyed. So there I was, all on my own, in a dark street about to be mugged by 5 guys with knives. Is this the way I'm going to die, I thought? An example of joy and hope were conveyed well by President Obama during his Yes We Can speech, when he said, and when I'm president, we will end this war in Iraq and bring our troops home. We will care for our veterans. An example of sadness was Martin Luther King in his landmark speech, I Have a Dream. He said, we can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating, for whites only. Now, these are just a few examples of how what you can say can get the audience to feel an emotion. You can also infer emotions through story, metaphors, jokes, quotes, and as long as you're ethical and you choose the appropriate emotions, it's okay to even tell the audience what to feel. You might say, you're probably feeling nervous about this right now. You can also tell them how they will feel ahead of time, and you can say something like, I think you're really going to love this demonstration. And another way is to tell them how you feel by saying something like, I'm really excited about this new idea, let me share it with you. And finally, you can even model emotion like Steve Jobs did when he said, who wants a stylus, yuck. So there are lots of examples of how you can generate emotion. The next question is, where should you do this in your presentation? It's really important to choose the right place in your presentation to get people to feel different emotions. And you can do this by using a map over your presentation structure that I call an emotional roadmap. An easy way to start is to map one emotion for each part of your presentation. Take the 5 parts of your presentation, the opening, part 1, 2, and 3, and the close, and then map one emotion for each part that you want people to feel. Notice that the emotions can be either negative, neutral, or positive, and this will give you a graphical representation of where you're taking people emotionally. So if you want to close on a high, then your map will need to reflect that. So just remember, people are going to feel emotions during your presentation regardless of what you say. And your job is to choose which emotions are being felt and to try to make your audience all feel the same emotion at the same time. Do this by choosing specific emotions and then saying things to generate those emotions. And check it all using the emotional roadmap to make sure it flows appropriately. If you start by experimenting with this, you'll become fairly good fairly quickly. So go ahead and choose some emotions for each part of your presentation.